All right, guys. Well, appreciate everybody taking the time this evening. Eric, Jamarcus, Dad, also named as Carl or Anthony as
Yeah.
well. All right. So today we'll be talking about, finances, responsibility as a man, principles as a man, faith, and how that all kind of ties in together. So I think this is gonna be a good episode, a healthy episode of maybe younger generation, older generation, how we kind of meet in the middle as far as all that encompassing. So first off, we're gonna talk about faith, right? How that affects our thought process and how we lead our family. So Eric, we'll start off with you as far as what does faith mean to you and how did you get to that conclusion?
Oh man, so for me, man, faith is everything to the family. Like I told you guys before, my grandfather grew up with him, inspiring to be just like him. And for the longest time, I thought he was a preacher, but only to find out he was a deacon. But you couldn't tell the difference because he was in the Bible. He was, in his faith. Took care of his family. Was probably the best example of a man that I had coming up until he passed. So for me, that foundation was set there. And when it comes to my faith, I've been tested in so many areas. I got a, big old testimony of endless hours of stories I can tell you of the things I've been through. And the only thing that got me through those things was faith, staying strong in my faith, being strong for my family in faith. And, I've always been the backbone of the family. So faith is big for me, man. God is everything. He's everything. He's my provider. He's everything I need comes through God, and I had to start learning that with the changing of your heart, giving things to God and letting him use you. That's the biggest thing that comes along when you're on your journey and walking with your faith. So,
All right, but Dad, tell us what faith means to you.
Okay. That's a loaded question. And you're talking about almost 30 years of trying to condense 30 years of a life experience walking with God into a minute or so, but I will try. And just to kind of piggyback off of Jamarcus and Eric, faith has not been a very easy thing to do. Um, in my early years of walking with God and the way I was taught, the name it and claim it. I remember my very first experience. This guy, not a guy, but a deacon, told me, you should be able to open up your empty cabinets and say, God, fill them, and open them up. And there should be all kinds of canned goods and all that. So I tried it. You were little. And that did not happen. So for me, the journey of faith was learning what it wasn't. No, I needed to get a second job and go ahead and, fill that need. I remember another time, where I think we were having a hard time paying the rent, and one of the ministers said, "Man, just write a faith of a check faith." So being a young Christian, I'm like, okay, so I wrote the check, and of course it bounced. And then we go to court, and the lawyer says, "Did you know that the check bounced?" And the only way I can get out of that and feel like I wasn't lying was, well, my father said he was going to give it to me. Now I was referring to God. So faith to me has developed over the years of being it's grown organically. It's understanding that faith is the application of God's wisdom. It is being ready and able to move and to do, not just sit there and ask. I think faith, to be perfectly honest, is failure. And then seeing the grace of God and then getting back up and then your faith got a little increased. And in my case, mostly because I'm like, God, wow. I mean, I bombed real big and you didn't abandon me. So for me, again, just to sum it up, faith is a journey of years. And, I'm not going to say that people don't receive a gift of faith. I think that's the exception. I think the rule is I think the rule is we all got to go through the journeys of testing and fall flat and get up and stand a little taller, and we're going to fall again. But that is how God grows our faith. So that is what faith is to me. And I think I would have, if he gave me a choice, I would have went a different way. But I'm glad that I've gone through the things that I've gone through, because then I wouldn't believe God the way I do now if it was easy.
And so I think it's interesting because I'm about to explain like my version of faith. And so it's interesting because my faith kind of has transitioned from yours, since I'm an adult now. I have my own son and stuff like that. So faith for me started off where I wrote off your coattails, Dad, for years, right? Because you kept me in church, you kept, preaching, you was our pastor in the house. And so for me, I think what ended up making faith a reality for me was life experiences and seeing things that there was no way that wasn't nothing but God. Like there's no explanation. You could say it's luck all day long, but it's like, nah, like even scientists that say there is no God would be like, all right, like that's interesting that happened. So that's something for me that I've wanted to apply. And I think in a different way, because me, like I really am big on action. I always say that like our biggest blessing is the fact that we have a functioning brain, 2 arms and 2 legs, right? And so we should be using that to pretty much be a contribution to our community, the church, and everything like that. So I think you've been able to kind of see that transition for me, and how now I think the next faith, I would say evolution for me, will be to see my sons, to get that word from God, what my son's, passion and purpose is supposed to be. And so you had that for me when I was 5. And so I think, and I've been thinking about it to myself, all right, and you get into that point where you need to start being able to point your son in the right direction. In what way do you need to increase your faith and change your ways in order to get that word from God as well? Because I'm really big on the next generation, and you know how hard I stay on Junior as far as making sure, like you say, point him. I'm the bow, he's the arrow, and I'm making sure I'm shooting him in the right direction. So
that's good.
That's what faith is for me right now, where I stand right now. And I need to step it up a notch in order to make sure I shoot my son in the right direction.
That's good. Hey man, I got this from somewhere, just to piggyback off what you said, man, that God is the shepherd and we're all his sheep, right? And just like we're supposed to steward over the things he gives us, our children are part of that too. We're the shepherds to our children to lead them back to God. And so for me, just like you, bro, I'm in that direction because my son turns 6 tomorrow, and my biggest goal is to make sure that he knows God. I started teaching him the Lord's Prayer, putting those foundational things in there, just like my grandparents did for me, to kind of help steer me in the right direction. So
we're gonna try to bring it back around to Jay.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So pretty much like for faith, man, like I said, it's like it's a up and down roller coaster, man. Like if you ride on a roller coaster, there's 2 types of people that ride it. Either the people who keep their hands up in the air and just let the roller coaster go, or you got the ones who holding on tight to the guardrail. And that's how my faith was in the beginning. I was that roller coaster rider, like through the ups and the downs. And with faith, man, through the like your father said, through the ups and downs. I love how he made that part, is to understand like what's not happening to keep your faith strong. So faith is very, very big with me now because I understand it. I didn't have a full wisdom of it when I was younger. I just knew the word, but I didn't understand the word, or I didn't have the wisdom of the word. And then just to tie in with the sons, man, the other day my son was singing a Christian song that I listen to every morning, and it literally almost brought tears to my eyes because like y'all said, that it's something that's passing on subliminally that I don't even know that he's listening to. Wow. I just try to put stuff on around him, or, say things around him. And we all know about foundations, how, God say foundations are built on a rock. So any storm that comes that way, a storm is going to come. your house will be able to, you know, stand strong. So that's all dealing with faith. It's very big, it's very strong. So I just didn't know it when I was younger. Just like we all said, I was so confused about it. But yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because it is what we expose our kids to is a big deal. I know my father was big on what rap music or what type of song he would have on play on the radio, because what we bring, what we allow to, you know, we'll sponge it in, right? And then we may not necessarily live that life, but it kind of desensitizes us to what is probably not okay. Like, you know, how often in you know, music is you know, promiscuity considered okay, and casual sex is okay, or just any type of thing that's kind of secular that is really not the focus. And we may shrug it off like, okay, well, everybody's doing it. But as an adult, we could probably process that a whole lot better than our kids could, even if we are playing the clean version of that song, because even the clean version of that song still ain't really talking about the right thing.
Ain't no kids, Bob.
Exactly. And so with us having that faith intact, right, and us as the head of our households as men, start off with you, Dad. What do you consider like your principles as a man that you measure yourself by?
Probably that is a very important question, because I know I am not the only man in the world who has had to struggle with self-esteem. It was, you know, for those that are listening and watching, and I say this with the utmost respect and reverence for my dad. I'm gonna try not to get emotional because he's not here. But my dad, I didn't realize that in his harsh way of discipline, that he was actually trying to carry out a vision to do family different than what he was exposed to. It was just that I don't think he had a mentor, someone to teach him that, you know, if you're going to have rules with your kids, you need to have relationship. Because as I think it was Pastor David Jeremiah once said, rules without relationship leads to rebellion. So me and my dad, we just, boom. So in that kind of relationship that was during those formative years as a teen, I wasn't affirmed by him. And the result was, unbeknownst to him or me, it was shattering to the self-esteem. So for a long time, I had to deal with the aftermath of having that low self-esteem and always doubting myself. And I would pray to God all the time, could you take it away? Oh, come on now, look, I'm a grown man, I got kids, I need to be stronger than this. Sometimes under the criticism of others, I would wilt. My 6'4" stature, you wouldn't see it, but on the inside, I would crumble. And I would deal with that, you know, privately, but it was such a burden. And it wasn't until, but over the years, it got a little bit better as I became a bit more secure and I just knew who I was. But it wasn't until God showed me a principle of how to judge my value. And it's something that if I had two dying breaths, the first one would be, I love you, speaking to my family. And the second one would be what God said to me, your value is not in your paycheck. Your value is in what you've been called to do.
Yeah.
So immediately when I heard that, I wrote it down in the journal. And from that point on, that became the primary guiding principle of my values. So since then, yeah, I've had criticism. And, you know, whether it be fair or unfair, I don't crumble because God has given me a self-esteem that's based on what he has said, not what someone else has said, not even what I've done, because I don't even deserve to even hear from God, you know, apart from Christ. So so that is a guiding principle for me. Your value is found in what you're called to do, and no one can take that from you.
And that's actually, you tied that in, Dad. And actually, you kind of really tied in a lot of what you said over the last 30 years to me. So that was pretty good of you.
I was in the household right there.
Yeah. Jamarcus?
Man, I felt like I was brought up 30 years on that one too. Like I felt I received every single part of that one. If I could, like, I'm gonna touch a little bit on what you said about that statement that you got from God. It's very important because me and E talked about this on one of the episodes. Jesus he had the potential to be anything he wanted to be on the earth.
Oh, yeah.
Like he could have been the emperor, he could have been anybody, but he only did what he was called to do, and that was die on the cross. So like I really think that pays like really homage to what your father heard from God. Like the value is not in the paycheck, but what's in your calling. And that's what Jesus do. Like we just gotta follow that method. Like it's interesting that I just heard that today, because that's like a confirmation to, we not only just know the message, but follow Jesus' method as well. So that was powerful and I received that. But the question you asked though, man, I literally honestly had to like do some research on the way home to find out, like, to get my instructions. And, the Bible talks about it, Matthew 7:2, where it says the standard of measure that you measure somebody with is how you will be measured. So for me, I never had nobody to measure myself to growing up. My father was absent. A lot of the men in my house and my family, all they did was work. And I thought that's what men needed to do to be a good man, was to work and have a house for the family, and you could do whatever you wanted. So that's what I was brought up in. So that's how I measured myself as a man. But coming to find out more, growing up in the world and actually getting back into the Bible, however you measure anything is going to be measured back towards you. So how I try to do it is, I try to measure with grace, man. That's my always go to. I try to measure my values in grace, try to measure my family with grace. If there's a hiccup, I've made hiccups, so we'll get through this hiccup together. Friends, seasons, money. It's not my source, as my brother E said. He told me that a long time ago. He asked me, what's my source? And I was like, shoot, the Navy. That's my source. And he was like, nah, that's just your potential, man. Like, what's your source? And I was like, shoot, I don't know yet. So coming to find out, so I guess that's like my answer to like the question to everybody. Just, find out what you measuring yourself to. And for me, in the beginning, that was nothing, bro. That was nothing at all. I was measuring myself to abstinence. So,
wow. Yeah, I love that. That's a totally different perspective than what my father said. And so I like the fact that we're kind of touching on different perspectives that will touch different people in different ways. E, you can go ahead and then I'll go last.
Man, as a man, I think I'm measured through my failures. The foundation of me, my grandfather was my foundation, and then he passed when I was like 9 or 10. So that whole perspective of what a man is, I only got it at age 10. And I had the rest of my life to live up until 36 today. And so I didn't have a lot of blueprints to go by or a lot of foundations to, see how a man is built. So a lot of things were just trial by error, man. And, through my failures, I've learned a lot. Through the sacrifices I've made through failures, I've learned a lot. And just continuing to stay a growing, progressing man. And, just staying on this journey, man, like letting God lead me, moving more to God. And, like I said, reevaluating myself, just like your father said, self-esteem issues at one point in life. Like, Jarmarcus said, with the roller coaster, there was self-esteem. And then there was another part of my life that wasn't. And there was another level was. And then, so there was ebbs and flows throughout my life. But, just staying, just reflecting back on the failures, man. That's how I measure myself when it comes to being a man, learning from mistakes.
I have to say that I've come to believe that some of the smartest people on this planet are the ones who reflect. I don't mean that in terms of their IQ level. The ability to look at yourself and be able to figure out why you do what you do, why you think the way you do, and then, do the about face if necessary. Those are some of the hardest people, hands down, because not everybody does that. And unfortunately, that's why we have a lot of people doing damage to other people in relationships, because they don't reflect.
Yeah, and that's hard, right? Nobody, I'm not gonna say nobody, but a lot of people don't like to see that ugly truth. You look in the mirror and you don't like what you see. You don't like where you're at in your life. You could be doing better, but you have that mental block, the emotional block, or that baggage from when you grew up that really gets in the way. And I had a conversation with somebody years ago where they was like, "Well, how long?" Actually, I was at my first command, so I was about 20 years old or so, and he was saying, "How long you gonna talk about your past and let that dictate your future? You at some point, what hurt you and what gave you hard times. So when you're gonna overcome it? Because nobody's gonna be trying to hear this, 50, 30 years later. Oh, I wish I could have did this, and you end up affecting people around you, right? Because you do it, eventually end up getting married, having kids, and so the saying, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And so,
Yes.
and then you do end up, inevitably you end up getting measured by your family because I think that's one of our roles as a man and the head of the household, right? Is to be that umbrella that covered down.
Yeah.
And so, especially your wife, your significant other, like, hey, what's up? What's going on with you? You out of pocket right now. Like, hey, step it up. And so, to tie that in with my principles that I've measured myself by. It started off with, as a kid, like who's the most athletic, who has it all, right? That kid with the Mustang and how he had all that, get all the girls. Then I got older and then my young 20s, and it was more so, okay, who makes the most money, who works the hardest. And it wasn't until maybe Anthony was maybe about 4 or 5 years old. So when I came back out to sea duty, when I realized, and I talked to you about this, Dad, money is a tool and nothing more. And so, yes, it's good to have money. Like, we all like nice things, but it is only a tool in order to invest more back into your family, because your family is the biggest investment you'll ever make. And that work-life balance, because I just threw football with, played catch with Anthony about an hour before we started this episode, and that meant more to him. That made his week. That made his week. Versus me saying, "Hey, Anthony, I bought you a stock today." The fact that I took the time to go out there and spend that time with him. He will remember those times. So to me, that's what I kind of measure myself by as a man, as a family man, and as a father, is the time I could put back into my family, because those are the things that they'll always remember. I think you always see it in movies, right? The father, the hardworking father, never got time for the kid, and then the kids playing catch by themselves and stuff, throwing the ball against the wall. I feel bad because I don't want to be so caught up in what I'm trying to do, right? Trying to do the podcast, trying to do the website and build a brand, that I forget about what am I really doing this for. I'm doing this for my family, and they will be here. I still got the Navy paycheck, so the bills are covered. So everything else is extra. So take care of them first at the wee hours of the night if I have to. Then I work on everything else. And so that's to me, and it will probably evolve as I get older, because I've been really, since I've been starting this marketing and really looking into different entrepreneurship stuff, I've really been exposed to a lot of different ways to really invest in your family, and what that really means. It's limitless. Actually, it's pretty limitless. And that's why I like this, talking about this stuff, because there's other people out there that don't know what they can actually do for their family. Even just if you just change your mindset as well.
Yeah.
I didn't see. I think what you just said is that perfect segue into the finances, because you remember me growing up, bunch of jobs. I mean, when I went back to college, I went to college full time, had a full time job, worked Saturdays, Sundays with another job. I literally would leave at 6 a.m. You'd be asleep. Come back at night, you all are asleep. And to me, that was being a man. That was, I'm making it happen. I'm getting my degree. But as I've shared with you, and especially with Ashley, because I noticed something happened during those 3 years that I was doing that. And something changed with Ashley. I, I don't know exactly, God only knows, but what if I worked smarter, not harder? Then, you know, because in my mind, grinding and that daily 9 to 5, that's what gets you the money. It never occurred to me to invest. It never occurred to me to monetize myself. I just, oh, got to go get another job. Got to pay the water bill. Oh, got to go get another job. Got to pay, you know what I'm saying? So there has been, thank God that where I was inadequate, he was adequate and he helped me be at least a decent enough dad that I have a relationship with each of you. But, you know, when I listen to you, how you put a value on your time, which means that you're going to find ways to free your time up so you can throw the ball.
Yeah, and I'll tell that story. So I'll tell that story because so my father and I, we were talking about doing a flip, and me and Dad, we kind of like doing, you know, like we did the electricity over the weekend. So now we're certified electricians, right? Because we fixed a few outlets, right? And so we were talking about a flip that I was interested in doing that was in Portsmouth, and we and you could have demoed it over the weekend and probably would have got that part done, saved us a couple $1,000s.
I was and so my sleeve. I was ready to go.
And so I told my father, I said, you know, I'm gonna make 60 grand off of this flip. Spending my whole weekend to save 2 grand does not add up to the time I could be spending with my family. If I'm gonna make 60 grand, because I have to prioritize. Okay, yeah, we have a system set in place to make the money. Okay, that's you made that money and you set a system in place and are paying people to do that. Okay, what are you doing with that time? You need to spend it with your family. You figured out the money. What are you supposed to be doing with your time? Put it back into your family. And that was kind of a eye-opener conversation with my father, because I get it, like that my father is a do it, hey, I'm gonna do it myself, you know, save a few thousand. Could we save a few thousand digging up your plumbing in your front yard?
Yeah, when the sewer line broke.
6 feet deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was literally a grave we dug about 12 feet.
A 40-foot grave. It was a 40-foot grave, 4 feet deep, 3 feet wide.
Oh man.
And so I think like grandma would make the joke, everybody was working but the dog. Remember we were all doing the paper route? And so that was the mentality, and that's what I grew up thinking when I went into the Navy. If I work my behind off, I will make rank, right? I will, and I'm noticing that ain't really the case when it comes to chief, right? It's, you can work hard, but it's different, right? It's definitely a lot of things need to align in your favor. So it ain't just about, hey, just put in that work. Sometimes you have to work hard, whether that's you being political or maybe you putting yourself in the right program that has the most eyes on it. And I had to grow into that, because I'm kind of that headstrong, like, well, I know hard work doesn't, gets rewarded, right? That's in the Bible. So that's got to be the case. But it's not necessarily the case all the time when it comes to family or when it comes to your career. And I think sometimes, especially somebody like me, maybe the first or second person has to tell me before I'm like, okay, because that was what I was built off of. That's what I was raised to see, right? My father and my mom always working, and I'm thinking, okay, that's what people are supposed to do. Obviously, throughout that time, make sure we make good financial decisions, but that is how people make ends meet, even though, ends don't meet, right? And we find that out.
No, they don't, because you got to get a third job.
Hey, this is good. This is good, man. There's so much stuff, and I don't know why, but I feel like I gotta like put this out because you said something. Being with a single mother, you find hard work really, really quick. You find it and see it really, really quick. My mom raised 3 boys and a girl by herself the entire time. So my mom worked every job I've seen her work, and she never let us know we were poor. Like, that was the best thing growing up. Like, we didn't know we was poor, but we knew we were poor, if that makes any type of sense. But she never let us like know that we were really not as wealthy as everybody else. When we had Christmas, she did what she needed to do. Like your dad said, I'm gonna get 3 more jobs, make sure y'all have like, a good Christmas. So that grind mentality was like instilled in me that you're gonna have to work to make it. And like you said something that was like really, really good when you were talking about like working hard in the military to get where you want. I did that. I worked really, really hard to get where I wanted to be and actually accomplished the goal that I set myself for working hard. And I put that before my family, and I got disciplined really, really well by God. Like he took that from me. Let's just say that he took something that I was blessed with, that I didn't pay the attention to the blesser, and he took that right from beneath me. So to hear you talk about understanding values and understanding your family, it feels good. It really feels good to see that you're getting like you noticed that already, and I just want to commend you on don't lose sight of that, because that's like you said, your family is the best investment, because everything else is temporary. Everything else is temporary. So I just want to give my hats off to you for that, because that's nothing that I saw like at the age that you were at. So I had to laugh, man, because it was that's one of my testimonies, and I kind of laugh at my testimonies now. So that I just want to commend you on that one, boss.
I think so a little bit of backstory, I guess what kind of accelerated some of my thought process, because I had the grit, I had the work hard mentality from my mom and from my father, but what kind of set me aside a little bit was I had broken up with my son's mother, and the Navy was trying to send me out of the area, and so I was really struggling with my detailer, and he was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna send you to Los Angeles." So I ended up being sent to California away from my son. But in the meantime, I ended up being exposed to so many successful Black people that I did not know existed in one area at the same time. And they made it sound like it was normal business. It's so many people, just even the idea of one guy I talked to, he's trying to own a basketball team, or at least be a part owner of it. I didn't even think about that being possible. Something to even think about. I met a young guy, he was my age. That's how I got exposed to real estate and how the process to do it, and how to renovate and the things to look at when you're buying, how the VA loan is available to us, and we could buy a fourplex with that VA loan and rent out all the other rooms out, and I live in one for free. It was being exposed to these different ways to be able to work smarter, not harder, gain assets, things that you could pass down, that it was like clicking. Okay, cool. I got the work ethic. Now I'm applied to these things that I didn't know was a way to gain wealth. And then now I just got to apply it. And so there was that. I do know that was the reason why I got sent out there. And it wasn't for any reason, because I could have it was either an option of Korea. It was either Korea or LA. And so since LA was still in the continental US, I chose that. And I'm glad I got sent there, because it exposed me to a lot of things that I don't think I would have got exposed to in the Hampton Roads area initially. Like, it was kind of just smacked in my face, seeing these Black people just really taking in whatever skills they had, and then just cashing in on it, and then spreading it with their family. Because it's all about the community in that area. It's all about, hey, I'm going to do this function, and then all the people in this area is going to come, and then we're all going to thrive off of it. So I like that. And everybody's so like, hey man, come out, check this out. Like so it threw me off, because I'm from the East Coast, especially up in New York. People are not like, hey, what's up? Hey, what's going on? And then 30 seconds later, they ask you for your phone number. To me, you already know that kind of, I was like, whoa, like, what's up? Like, they asked me for my number so quick. But that's how they are out there. They are very like inviting and want to share information. And I wasn't used to that. I was not used to people so willing to share information, that I was more than willing to kind of give back. That I've shared with you a lot of things that I've become privy to, and it has changed kind of our thought process on how we should move, because we get older over a period of time, and I know that I will not be able to average 4 or 5 hours of sleep in order to sustain my family for too long, because things will crumble. Kind of like back when we were all doing that paper route, right? All of us waking up 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to do the paper route and then going back to regular work. We would all wake up at 1:30 in the morning, pick up the papers at 2 a.m. and then you would go straight to work. I think I was able to at least get an hour or two of a nap. I would go to IHOP and get some IHOP, and then I would take a nap, and then I would go to work, and then mom went to work. So we all was like up from about 1:30 on, and it I realized that when you do that, it does eventually break the family down a bit. And so I think when I take that into the family I have now, we have to find a because I do like nice things. Amira definitely likes nice things, but we have to find a middle point where, hey, look, how are we not going to run ourselves to the ground? And as men, I think we have to be very secure in what we are. Don't get me wrong, definitely don't want to be, making $15,000 a year and you're trying to take care of a family of 5. That just don't add up. But I think I think as men, we have to find a point. Okay, this is the threshold. This is how much time I'm putting into this, whatever I'm making. And then the rest, I need to make sure that the family is good in other ways and not just material things and not just a bigger house for no reason. Because there are other principles that need to be instilled in our kids so that moving forward, we won't be kind of like, damn, like,
yeah,
I bust my behind for you to end up like this.
Yeah.
Yo, hey, man, it seems like, man, me and you are brothers from somewhere, man, because I got this story, man. Me and my son's mother, we were married for about 5 years. And during that 5-year period, like you said, grinding, that was on my mind because I got exposed to network marketing, being in the Navy. One of my officers that retired, he got out the Navy, had a 6-figure job, working with Booz Allen or one of those contracting companies. And then he hit me up and said, hey, man, I quit. And I was like, you quit a 6-figure job? What you got going on? You know what I mean? So started networking with him, man, and he introduced me to a lot of multimillionaires, Black multimillionaires. And, for me, that just popped the top on my mind. Like, so I started getting into that grind and I started doing all these things. And, my son's mother, she costs a lot, high fashions, brand names, all that. So, and this, I was an E4 at the time, trying to have a family, trying to take trips, trying to do all this stuff. And it's just not enough. And I wasn't thinking about, like, once I got exposed to, creating things to work for me versus me working for it. And I got stuck in that grind, man. And I did lose a lot. We ended up divorcing. And just like you, man, like I got orders to Tennessee from North Carolina. Yes, it's in the continental US, but, I lost that time of seeing, taking my son to daycare every day, being there with him. And I started reflecting back. And that was, part of what I was saying earlier, those failures. That was part of my failure, like learning that you have to create a balance. If you're out here trying to get finances, you're trying to have a career, you're trying to be a family man, like you have to create a balance. You have to have some discipline in that balance, because at one part of the journey, my ex-wife at the time was like, hey, you need to set a cutoff time. Every business has a close, right? Yeah. And she said, you need to shut it down. So I did for about 2 days. And then, the grind kept coming back. It was like, well, if I make one more call, if I take one more call, that's going to be this amount of money. And, I got caught up in it. And so I fell back into that hamster wheel of grinding. And I missed a lot of time with my daughter, my son. And it's like, when I got to Tennessee, I finally moved in. I think that was the biggest point of my life where I just broke down as a man and just cried, because it's like I look around and all that grinding ain't got nothing to show for it. So, it's you gotta have that balance, man. Definitely gotta have that balance.
I'm gonna just piggyback on what you said. When my son was talking about us doing that paper route, I remember, we would get up at 11 p.m. and because we had a big paper route. And we were just trying to keep up with the mortgage because we moved into a house that we had no business moving into. And I would say, and they would pay us once a month. And when we got the check at the end of the month, and I'm looking at it, and I said, and I'll never forget it, I said, this still ain't enough. And I'm getting an hour's sleep. You know, we get back, if we're lucky, at 5. I sleep until 6, get up and be out by 7. But growing up, you know, I saw my father work 7 days a week, and my mother, and my son knows this, my mother would always say, you got to have your check, you got to have your benefits, the dot. Heard that. I heard that all my life.
Yeah.
And I never heard, I never heard anything else, but you need your benefits, you need your paycheck, you need your sick time, and that was it. And so even at 53, I'm listening to my son and how he's doing life differently. Mm-hmm. And I want to do what he does. Mm-hmm. But my mindset, it's like that groove in the floor. Yeah. It's hard. And that's why when he said, hey, I'm going to have a demolition, I'm like, let's do it. And he's like, it was funny because he said, Dad, my time is worth a bit more. And for $2,000, no, hang out with my kids. And I'm thinking, what, man, you gonna save $2,000? But it kind of hit me. I said, okay, I see where he's going. Yeah. So even at this age, I want to do it. I literally have to be retrained, and my son is going to help me do that. Just watching him. Yeah. Oh, that hamster wheel, though, man. It's still not enough. It's still not enough.
Nah.
I think not gone are the days, but it's becoming less and less a thing where it's like, hey, if you don't have a degree or going to the military, it's not a thing anymore. And
oh yeah, that's right. It's not.
And so one thing that I noticed is that schools, right? They don't teach you about money. I think you have one class that I learned how to write a check, and that was about it. I think that's the only thing I really remember out of there. But the reason why that's the case is because school teaches you to get a job. Mm-hmm. It doesn't teach you what to do with the money once you got the job. So it's institutionalized in its own way. It's a machine in its own way. So the reason why I think it's so hard for us when we are adults to think the way I was explaining to you is because for 12 years we was in a system that taught us to, hey, there's only one right answer, and this is what you're supposed to go to school to go back into the workforce. And so I think that's why our mindsets are like that. And as men, that's our thought process when it comes to providing for a family. On top of, the exposure of social media and every other thing you see every man doing for their family. And even though we don't know their story, we never know the full story of what's going on. Remember that commercial where the guy has that nice house, the nice lawn, and the kids, and he says, I'm in debt up to my eyeballs. Please help me.
Yeah. And he says it with a smile.
Yeah. Like a cringing smile. Like he's in pain. So I'll never forget that commercial. I'll never forget that commercial because I remember you telling me, I think it was either you or Mom telling me, I used to go to one of my baseball friend's house, and he had all that stuff. He had the nice TV, nice room, nice house, everything. Yep. And I think he broke down and told you, like, either you or Mom broke down and was like, hey, like, we are hurting. Like, stuff looks good.
It was
I'm not gonna say the names, but it was the mom that told you or the mom that told my mom.
While the husband took the men out to the deck that he had built, this beautiful, I don't know, looked like mahogany wood deck with a pool built into the deck. And while he was showing it off, that jealousy, and and I'm not prone to jealousy, but there were that moment. And I remember thinking, man, I'm 30 something. I should have this. Mm. So when we get in the car, your mother and I were all driving home, and I had a transparent moment where I was telling her, man, that really bothers me. We don't have that. We don't even have a house. And this guy's got this. He got the brand new truck. And I remember your mother, she was just staring, at the road driving, and she never looked at me. She just said, don't be jealous. Don't be jealous, she said, because while he has y'all out there, the wife broke down crying about how they were in so much debt because they bought that house furnished it with credit. He built the deck and pool on credit, bought the truck on credit. And so you have several women in your living room, and you're crying because you're in debt up to your eyeballs, but he's out there showing you all the stuff that he bought. And that was, I don't think that was by accident. I think, God allowed that to happen to begin the process, although it took a long time, begin the process to recognize that real success was not in what you possess. Real success is if you can sit down at the dinner table with your family, have a good meal, talk to each other, have good relationship. Yeah. That's success.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's success. Bottom line, that's success right there.
Totally agree with that. Ooh. Man.
Yeah, I'm smiling because like I'm really thinking about that time, because even at, I don't know, maybe I was 11 and even or 12, and even I felt that jealousy as a kid. And it took, I don't know at what point, but I remember being told that story when I was a teenager, and that kind of changed my mindset as well, as far as what to really be jealous of when it came to those kids. Because I never understood, it just couldn't compute to me, why do these kids have these things and I don't? Like, what is going on?
That is the problem.
I think what made it tough too is that, technically, I am middle class by virtue of the job that I do. But I always told you I didn't feel work. I felt working class. I felt blue collar. I felt minimum wage because all the hours I put into teaching.
Yeah.
So I think between, the job that I had and just the values that we had, we flowed with a different crowd. And the crowd that we flowed with and seemed to be friends with were those that just had more than us. But I can't remember who said it to me. It might have been a pastor, but he has said there will always be someone who has more than you, but there'll always be someone that has less than you. Mm-hmm. And I have repeatedly seen that in my life. And it's also has helped me to stay humble and find a certain contentment, because there are people that look at us and think that we got it going on. Right. Yeah, we're doing better every year, but there are people who are younger than me who got it really going on because they made great decisions when they were young, and they had maybe parents or someone that poured into them to be wise at a young age. So, with that in mind, there should be we should be able to have some measure of contentment, because I know there are 60-year-olds, people twice my age, that have far less than what I got. And, that keeps you humble, but at the same time keeps you from beating up on yourself, and keep that jealousy monster, a little tamped down.
That's part of that grind, man. Like I was saying earlier, when I was on the hamster wheel, you pull up to an event and you see black people with, it's like 20 Bentleys lined up, and it's like, hey.
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing people 19 with new BMW. I'm like, hey, man, what am I doing with my life? You know what I mean? So it creates that complex in you, man. And, even your self-esteem as a man, like you start feeling way less of yourself. And then so once your emotions of that takes on that and it changes inside of you, it trickles outside of you to the rest of your family. And that causes a lot of issues in the home, for your kids. And you're snapping on your kids, you're snapping on your wife. And it's like you're internally frustrated with something that you have. It ain't got really nothing to do with you. You're trying to measure yourself to somebody else's standards. But just like Aaron said, you don't know the story behind it. So.
Exactly. We should measure ourselves by who we were yesterday. That's the only person we should compare ourselves to. Can I be better than I was the day before?
That is good. I like that one.
Yeah, that's 30 years of those ups and downs.
I would, Rich, like I would say, like I think like one of the things that I see like men struggle with, and I know I struggle with it, is living beyond your means. Like 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 understand like everything y'all are saying right now. Like, you know, I've caught the jealousy bug too. Like, hold on, man, I can get a truck. I know I can afford it, but it's gonna put some other stuff, you know, I'm gonna end up not paying something, but I can get it though. So like, you know, when we go beyond our means, trying to make the family happy is a struggle for men, like who really didn't know or see like you know, men do financially stuff well. You actually just trying to make your family happy, but you put them in a bad position because you had nothing to measure by. You're just thinking, I need to make my family happy, so we're gonna go out here and you know go get something, and it's gonna be outside of what we are capable of doing. And I know that was a struggle for me because you know I never seen you know, a man and a wife actually go through with bills and you know break down and talk about what's more important and prioritize. So that was one of my biggest struggles with family. Is, you know, I didn't have it as much. I was like, man, I'm gonna make sure that they have everything that I didn't have, and whatever that takes, I'm gonna do it. I had a best friend who works at UPS, right? And he used to, every Christmas, I'm in the Navy. I used to go work like for a week and a half on Palm to like have a better Christmas like for my kids. And Rich, you said it earlier. If we would have just, I'd have got them one present and we would have just, you know, built a gingerbread house or, you know, played and do all that, they would have remembered that way more than the toy that's broke right now that we gave away in Goodwill. And so I just wanted to touch on that part because I do believe that's something that we as men, I know I did, I struggled with it, you know, trying to provide for, trying to be a good man, but just didn't have nothing to measure it with, like didn't have the stuff to come up with to be like, we can't do that. As a man, you got to be able to say, we can't do that because that's beyond our means. So, man, yeah. Whew.
What do y'all think about as far as our counterpart saying, hey, like what you're doing is not enough? What do you think? And I say that because right, I mentioned earlier finding that balance. And if the four walls are being taken care of, right, you have a roof over your head, you are providing obviously your kids with clothes, everybody's taken care of pretty well. I think we've all felt that pressure of that our woman, like, yo, keep, you know, I want this, I want that, and not to say like, you know, say again.
I said we talking about after Christ, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, and so, I don't know. Do y'all feel pressures, even if you do have a woman that is very understanding of what is your current, you know, whatever your current situation is? Do you still feel that pressure? If that's the best word I could think of when it comes to that. Who wants to go first?
I'll take that one. That's real good, man. Those pressures actually pushed me to divorce. And it was because I was trying to create something and sustain something that, like Jarmarcus said, was beyond my means. Because that comes with an emotional part, that comes from a financial part, and then it comes with the spiritual part. So the three cores, right? So I was trying to create and do and grind for all those things to be in unison when, because of the grind, all of them just imploded on me, right? And so those pressures I started building up in myself. And, you know, not to take a shot at my son's mother, but she wasn't the most supportive person during that time. So I felt the pressures of the ones I created, and then I felt the pressures of what she created. And so I was just trying to, you know, keep my head above water from the standard that she set on me. And then on top of her standard, and I set mine. So I'm just trying to stay afloat, man. And I steady drown, you know what I'm saying? So that caused a whole lot of, you know, internal things and emotional things. And, you know, stuff that I actually had to go to counseling for, you know, to kind of get healed from. But when you set those standards, or when you feel those pressures, I'm a living testimony, you know, to whoever hears this. Don't allow yourself to get caught up in those pressures, because like your dad said, we all have a calling. Once you understand and know your calling, and you just walk with God, like he'll ordain every step along the journey to all the success, all the things that you want. You know, God says, as it is as it is on earth, as it is in heaven. Yeah. So we got kingdom in heaven. If everything is great and blissful and blessed up there, he wants the same thing here on earth. But when you get out of line with him, you know, it all crashes, man. So, yeah.
Yeah, you want to go next? I can go next.
Oh, you asked me if I would go next?
Yeah.
I tell you, Eric, you're bringing back memories. I'll say this, do I feel the pressure? I think part of the pressure I felt was because I had a false idea of what a real man is. Yes, you want to make your wife happy. Yes, you want to see that smile on all your family's face when you've done something, you've brought something. It's one of the reasons why, against my better judgment, we bought a house we just couldn't afford to have. It's the last house we had when I was married to his mom, but that feeling of, look what I did. Oh, see, that's intoxicating. And I really, really wish that there was someone whom I was close to, and I guess this is where it's important to have friends. I wish there was someone that close to me that hit on straight, that stick to the wisdom that you are sensing with this. Don't make a decision based on emotion. I wanted to feel like the man. I wanted to feel like the man. But the problem is that the resources didn't match. So ultimately, I think when you live outside your means, when you succumb to the pressure because you have a false idea of who you are and what you're supposed to be, you bring destruction. Because I distinctly remember, and his mom will tell you, when we were running behind on that mortgage, I remember her saying, hey, we got a paper route, let's get with that paper. And I remember God saying to me, don't do it. And so I told his mom, and she's like, all right, well, we got to do something. And then I think it was a week later, and she said, hey, it's still available. And, she said, listen, you got to do something. And I heard God say a second time, don't do it. And I remember that 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm saying, Lord, you got to do something, because this mortgage is falling behind. So we took the job, and that was the beginning of the end of us as a family unit. And because I listened to my flesh, I listened to his mom, and I did not listen to God, because I wanted to be able to provide and do something that it was just beyond my ability to do, So part of that pressure is what we put on ourselves, because we don't understand that as men, we have to, when we know wisdom, we got to stand our ground. And it's not being, it's going to be this way, baby, because that's the way it's going to be. It is standing on wisdom. And if the spouse bucks, you trust God. Lord, I'm operating in what I believe is wisdom in your sight. Please work in her heart or his heart, so that these burning hot coals that are being poured on me, they could stop. And because that is something I would tell young men, like, be humble, be compassionate, but if you know that is wrong, stand your ground, because God knew what was coming down the pipe. If you, by taking that job, you can imagine what that does to a relationship. We work, but all we were doing was sleeping when we could, eating and working. The relationship just crumbled because we're trying to maintain something we had no business being in. And because I did not stand on what I heard God say to me. I mean, I heard it twice. What else did I need?
I guess that rolls back around to faith.
Yeah.
Yep. I leaned on my own understanding. So isn't that interesting that you can have faith enough that I hear from God, I know it's him, and still not do it. And I guess, and that I think is part of the journey of faith. Now I've learned, and when I remarried, that's one of the things I told Tiff. I said, you know, I love you, but I'm telling you, if God tells me to do something and you telling me something different, I'm not following you. I've learned my lesson because I lost a marriage with that. You know, we all hurt because I didn't obey God. You know, so yeah, so I speak to all the men out there, just please stand your ground when you're standing on wisdom. Don't buckle. If the person loves you, they will come around, especially if they have a heart for God. You think God's going to deal with them in their private moments, and there'll be peace again.
I think so the pressure for me, I think, has been pretty interesting because it does. I got to see and have very transparent conversations with you, Dad, over the years, and my struggle has been trying to run away from that pressure, like to never have it, and so I overcompensated, and so I overcompensate to run away from maybe some of the failures that you had, and to not address what some of my failures may be. So I say, hey, if I'm providing and I am trying to do all I can to put this time into the money that I make into the household, and everything should be good, right? And I had to learn that through my relationship with Anthony's mother, and you know, the current one I'm in now. That there's a difference between, I guess, pressure and probably bending further than you should, and because you want to do nice things for your significant other, you want to treat them to a couple of things, so you can put a few dollars to the side. And I think if real communication allows your significant other to truly understand, hey, this is where we're at, okay? Like, I can't get you red bottoms, but I can get you some nice Stacey Adams, you know, or you know, I can get you something nice from J.C. Penney's. And I think if you're putting the time and the effort in and the thought process, then I think that's what matters. And then maybe if it doesn't, then maybe you're with the wrong person. So that's something to think for, you know, men that are listening. That may be something to really consider. If you got it, you got it. Yeah. So if you got it to buy a G-Wagon, that's 137K. Then hey, you know, then you got it. But if you don't, then you have to live within your measure. There is no I guess shame in working a 9 to 5, but I guess at the end of the day, it just matters what you're doing for your family and with your family with that 9 to 5. And so that's how I kind of look at it. I think for me, I think I had to learn that thought process, because if I did not, and Dad, you understand the type of wealth I'm trying to amass. If I did not understand that process, I would not be using the money that I'm trying to earn and currently earning the right way. Yeah. And it would be used as poison versus as a tool for the family and for, like I said, for God. And so I think we have to go through certain things so that by the time we get the things that we receive, we're ready for them. And so, because I truly believe you are. Dave Ramsey says it. He's like, if people that have money, they're just a bigger version of what they were. So if you was a dirt bag, you're just a bigger dirt bag with $10 million or success as well. So without any type of guidance, mentorship, and I guess that's why Amir jokes about how I have 2 new friends now, Jarmarcus and Eric. You know, it's very hard because you said it too. You know, Dad, you said, hey, I guess that's the point of having some friends. I wish somebody would have told me, hey, that ain't really the thing that you should be doing right now. And there's no shame in saying, hey, putting a cap on it. And I think there are some men, maybe some women that may disagree. Like, you're supposed to always be out there and making sure you're doing for your woman. But I think at a certain degree, it gets excessive because like Amir says, like you're just trying to feed the beast. Like, I'm always going to want more. You know, I'm always going to you probably put $700 cap of allowance. I'm gonna spend it quick. I'm just gonna do 1,000. So you got to just, there has to be a constant communication on, hey, this is what the threshold is. This is what we can do, and let's get as as creative as possible. Like, we're going to Busch Gardens and we're all able to go for free because we're all military. So like, we're getting creative, right? The kids get to have a good time, family time, and it's free. And so I think you can figure it out and kind of get creative and still hit those wickets, those family wickets.
Gotcha. I tell you, if you're going to test a woman's love, put on a pair of Skechers. If she, put on a pair of Skechers. Hey, baby, this is the best I can do. If she's if she's wearing them, all right, she's in love. She's in love.
Hey, I tested that once before. Like I said, I got divorced. Again, that's not a shot at my son's mother. She's hey, facts.
I gotta say though, this kind of speaks to relationships, and I know it's a bit off of our talking points, but this idea of what a man should be. Me growing up, the Marlboro man with the hairy chest, and you command your woman shows you the utmost respect. But I guess the 21st century man is, he's reflective, and he's reflective enough to know, I don't know everything, and so I'm going to consult with my other half. But at the same time, God has called us to be men, and and I know and let me clarify, because I know if there's any feminists that are listening, it's not that men are superior to women, but I love how this one pastor put it: men and women are equal in essence, they're just different in functions. Because at the end of the day, God holds us accountable. We're the covering. So if we let someone come into our house and we're sitting in the bed running behind our wife and say, go check out that strange noise, oh no. And so, with that same authority, we have to be bold enough to not be willing to bump the intruder on the head, but to be able to stand up and say, honey, wisdom says boom, boom, boom. And if they have any measure of respect for you, they may not like it, but they will submit if your track record is, I'm not trying to lord it over you. I listen to you. I consult you. But on this one, I need you to trust me. So yeah, it's a combination of the track record, with the relationship. But I do feel that as men, if you continually acquiesce to the wants, particularly if the spouse may not be as mature, has not really got that revelation yet, that money, you got to manage it well, then every time they start kicking a fit or they complain, and then the devil, he's going to swoop in and say, yeah, you see, she got somebody else that right down on the block that buy her those red bottles. You giving her Skechers. So you got, so you just have to hold fast, and she's going to have to trust you. And if the wife cannot trust you, then that speaks to there's something wrong in a relationship. What's your track record been? What have you proven that you are unreliable, that she can't believe you? And if you haven't, then it's the spouse is just dealing with personal selfishness. And then you get on your knees and you pray and you ask God, please, Lord, work in her. And of course, he's going to swing back around and tell you something you need to fix while he's working on her. But I feel very strongly about that as men, you can be strong, not just in the physical, but be strong in the emotional, in the spiritual. This is what I believe the Lord is saying, and don't budge. And do not budge. And look, because you think about it, look what happened to Abraham. God said, I must give you a son. And what did Sarah do? I want a boy. Go get with Hagar, I think it was Hagar over there. And what happened? Yep. Now you have the tensions in the Middle East between the Arabs, the son of, I think it's Esau, and Jacob.
Yep.
Or I forget the son. So all because Isaac, all because he did not stand up and say, sweetie, I know you want a kid, but God said, And again, another example, when you don't listen to God, you create all kinds of problems, you know, from a loss of a marriage to warring nations, and even maybe on a more personal note, that chipping away of your self-esteem, you know, when you keep bending over when you know it's the right thing to do. And then as a man, and then when it all blows up and they turn around, you need to fix it. Wait, I didn't cause this. You need to fix it. You the man. Oh, see, that's like putting a stake through the vampire's heart. You the man. What you gonna do? You went and charged the card and went over the limit, so they charged us the monthly fee and the over. Anyway, the point is that you know, if as men we just have to operate in the authority that God has given us. Not that we're lording over our wives, but we just have that we are accountable. At the end of the day, God's coming to us and said, I sent you resources and you took and bought all this stuff and you had no money to give to the poor, no money to, you know, hook up that old lady that you see every day, scraping out pennies to pay for a thing. You couldn't even afford to pay her $15 at a Food Line bill because you're out. You see what I'm saying? So it's, as men, we stand our ground on what God has said. And then after that, you can be secure that if anything blows up, she's throwing sketches at you, you can just sit there and take it. It's like, take it up with your father in heaven because he said, do this.
That's a good one right there. Oh, yeah, that is. And so, yeah, well, man, that was a lot. And so I really hope that this really helps a lot of men figure out, okay, what is my place and my role in this, in my household? Okay. And then identify what am I capable of doing? Because there's only 24 hours in a day. Mm-hmm. And so identify, okay, these are the holes in my relationship, in my household, my kids. Okay. Is it a financial problem? Is it a principles problem? Do my kids not share the values that I'm trying to instill in them so that when they become older, they are doing their thing? And so it's a balancing act. And, you know, I had one lady on one of my episodes saying everything kind of being perfectly imbalanced because we're not perfect, right? But like Dad, like you say, strive for excellence. So I think we have to understand that we are not perfect. There are things that we are still learning. But I think as we continue to strive for excellence, we will hit the majority of the wickets. And what we do is our kids to be better versions of ourselves. And so I've had the opportunity to see how the difference between my grandfather to you, Dad, and then from you to me. And then there are certain things I've noticed with Anthony. He understands the concept of what an entrepreneur is way earlier than I even knew the word. Yeah. And he actually there was something in his book that said risk. He says risk provides reward, and he asked me like what that was, and I explained to him, you know, that hey, you know, some people they as entrepreneurs they take a risk out on themselves. So when you take that risk, it's got to be a calculated one, and it can't be so much so that you just decimate everything. And, you know, I think about that when it comes to my family, when I am, you know, say putting this time and this energy into my kids or, you know, my job, I'm investing into that thing that I hope pays the dividends. And so hopefully, you know, my prayer is that my dividends are, you know, bountiful and that at the end of the day, when I'm retired and all the kids out the house and I'm sitting there with my wife, I'm like, okay, I did good investments. The dividends are paid. You know, I'm at peace. And I think that's a never ending because, right, I'm still learning from you, Dad, and I'm out the house. I look to have that relationship with my son that he's still learning even when he's already out the house. And there's that relationship because we spoke about, you said discipline without relationship.
Oh, rules without relationship.
Rules without relationship
leads to rebellion.
Yes, and I think that is very true when it comes to as the father. You know, the usually been the archetype, the disciplinary archetype. You know, usually that's the role. And so I've learned that you can have the love with it too, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have to always be like boom. So I really hope that I appreciate everybody kind of putting their input together, because the second time in a row, guys, hey, I have some things I need to take back to my household and think through, because we think we got to figure it out, or like, hey, this is what I'm gonna roll with, and then God puts something else in our life, or other people in our lives that gives us a different thought process. We're like, okay, that's something new, and I didn't even know that was possible. And I could already see, I think the aha moment is when you could already see it in your head. Oh, wow, I see what this is going to do for my family. This is going to blow their minds. And you can't wait to run to your wife and tell her, yo, babe, I got something. This is going to change the whole dynamic of everything, And she's like, all right, man, let me hear. Yeah.
Can I ask something? I would love to hear from Eric and Jarmarcus real quick. When you are, and I know, again, this kind of speaks to relationship, but also with finances, money, sex, communication. Those are like the three biggies in a marriage. But again, since we were talking about finances, I mean, I would love to know how you guys deal with those financial, those moments where there's two different ideas about how money should be spent, and as men, how you approach that.
So I'm gonna let Jarmarcus get this one first, because he has a great story to go with what you just said. Confirmation, bro. Go ahead.
Man, I guess you didn't put me on the spot like again, because I just had this just happened, and I shared it with E. So we've been trying to plan like a family Colorado trip to go and let the kids see the snow. COVID's been in and all this type of stuff, and my wife has like been struggling trying to get like the days and making sure like everything is going well, right? Because my wife, she's the rock. She's the rock of the family, just to make sure everything is kind of running fluid. And I sat back and I was thinking, well, we only gonna be in Colorado for 2 days, and we about to spend almost $1,000. And I was like, that don't work. That ain't gonna work, right? Because we haven't, put this money to the side. We're gonna be spending money that was not saved up for the trip. So it's not gonna work out. So I was like, okay, we need to have a conversation with you home. And man, I thought in my head I was doing the right thing. I thought like, man, all right, I'm getting older. I'm planning here and not just spending off. And it took a total left, because of, like you said, it wasn't something that we were doing beforehand. And it wasn't something that I was doing beforehand about going to talk to God about making moves like that. So it was something that my wife had always been praying for the man for me to be like. And when I showed it to her, she wasn't ready to receive it. And I talked to E about this, about when God gives you a vision, we get frustrated with the release date. It's just like when a new iPhone comes out, they usually reveal it before the release date of the iPhone. And as other people, we get frustrated that the release date is not the same as the reveal date.
Yeah.
And that was something that like we literally just struggled with. But the good thing out of that was we've come to a place now where an argument didn't happen. It was more of a, hey, I just want you to know everything that I say to you, I'm just trying to cover you out of love. And I would hope you would do the same for me. If I was trying to go about truck, you would tell me we can afford it, but it will put us in debt. So, yeah.
Amen to that.
My bad, bro. I mean, put you on the spot like that. Such a good testimony. When it comes to finances and relationship, again, part of what I said earlier, I failed at it. When I was married, we were living way above our means. I'm more of a frugal type guy sometimes, depending on what the situation is. When it comes to finding a place to stay, driving a car, clothes, going out, that kind of stuff, I'm very frugal, man. So in that marriage, she wasn't. She's complete opposite. I would like to stay in an apartment, pay like $600 in rent. She said we need a house, and we're gonna go pay $1,250. It's like, you know, pay half of that, have $650 to go do something with. You know what I mean? Buy you some clothes, and I try to lay it all out, but it never worked. So it goes back to what you said earlier, Mr. Rich. You know, putting your foot down and standing your ground with when God tells you no, don't do that, right? And so when it comes to the finance part, it's something very big for me now. I'm in a journey now where I'm learning more about finances. I'm learning more about investments. I'm learning more about how to be a better steward with my money and how to be a better steward with finances. You know, because of that marriage, I'm able to now have a conversation with whomever I'm going to be with. Hey, we want to take this trip. Let's make plans for it.
Got it.
Let's think this thing out. Now more future planning for things. All right, cool. If we're going to try to go to Jamaica next June, we need to start setting aside this amount of money and maybe cut off some of these things. Or if we got investments, we'll take the dividends from those investments, take half of that, put it towards the vacation, and we'll reinvest in to create more income, or however we want to do that. So now I'm more strategic with it now. So that's just the season I'm in as far as relationship and finances. Please, whoever is listening, be strategic in the things that you do. Don't move outside the will of God, because when you do, you don't have a covering. What happens when you go into a construction site with no hat on your head and somebody drops a hammer? It's going to hurt. You know what I mean? So God keeps us covered in finances and relationship, in all area aspects of marriage and relationship and in personal life. You got to stay up under that covering so that when that danger comes, or when, like you said earlier, talking about your mortgage and it was, you know, you up to debt in your eyeballs, well, God had a covering for that, but you decided to jump outside of, you know, the plan. So, you know, just be strategic in the things that you do when you come to relationships and finance.
I like that. That's quality of man, strategic.
And I love all our different perspectives. And I think we've all been through our own experiences, which has tested our faith, tested our, I guess you could say, manhood, and as far as how we decide to raise our kids and our family. And I could see that obviously all four of us are very reflective men, and it's that's half the battle. Yes. The other half is execution. So we'll wrap it up in a bit, but I think to encompass it all up, I think that it's really, we have to stay laser focused, and we can't let other outside things dictate how we decide to be the men that we need to be. I think we need to have those confidants, but those people that we could trust. But we have to identify and filter and discern what is good and what needs to kind of get taken out, so that we can be loyal to our family, ourselves, and God. And so I think that is the overall thought process and conclusion of, I think, what we just talked about.
Oh yeah,